Recently, Jacinda Ardern, the Prime Minister of New Zealand, resigned. There have been many idiotic reactions to this. I have no problem with people criticising Jacinda Ardern and the Labour government. I have disagreements with them myself, but I do have a problem with stupidity. One thing that I kept seeing was right-wingers covering her resignation and claiming that she was a tyrannical, power-hungry leader, seeking to portray the massively successful COVID response that was probably the best part of Ardern's legacy, as if it was some kind of tyrannical power grab. Accusing someone of being a tyrant isn't a particularly convincing claim when you are covering their resignation. Power-hungry tyrants do not voluntarily relinquish their power when there is no need for them to do so. Accusing someone of being a power-hungry tyrant while you are covering their voluntary resignation is a supreme piece of irony. Others accused Ardern of abandoning ship. I even saw one commentator say, "Imagine if Winston Churchill gave up and resigned during World War II." This is obviously a stupid analogy because New Zealand is not in such a dire situation where morale is so crucial. Ardern didn't resign during the Christchurch mosque shooting, White Island eruption, COVID pandemic, or Parliament protests. Ardern resigned during one of the most stable periods of her leadership. She wasn't abandoning a nation in crisis. She was stepping down because she thought she had come to lack the energy and devotion needed for the job. She wasn't abandoning ship. She was leaving the helm to let a better captain take over. Furthermore, if a leader thinks that they lack what it takes, even during wartime, they should resign. This is what paved the way for the leadership of Winston Churchill. Neville Chamberlain resigned because he didn't have what it takes to lead a country in wartime. Our resignation paved the way for Churchill and his famous wartime leadership. The hit to morale caused by a leader resigning is much smaller than the hit to morale that is to be expected if a country is led in such difficult times by a leader who is not up to the job. Using Churchill as an example for how resigning is bad is idiotic. The willingness of leaders to resign is the difference between being stuck with an incompetent leader all the way through a war or having such a leader replaced by a far more competent one. Some have accused Ardern of being weak for resigning. This is idiotic. Shaming Jacinda Ardern for experiencing burnout is stupid behaviour which seeks to pressure leaders into staying in power, even when they know they can't perform. Resigning when you know you can't perform is a good thing, and we shouldn't discourage it by labelling it as weak. I want leaders who resign when they feel like they can no longer do their job. I do not want leaders who refuse to leave office regardless of how incompetent they become. Any rational person wants competent leaders. Shaming people for resigning because they have decided that they lack the capacity to properly do the job is a good way of encouraging incompetent leaders to stay in office. When leaders realise they have become incompetent, I want them to step down and be replaced by more competent leaders. I don't shame people who make such a rationally desirable state of affairs into a reality. Shaming leaders and accusing them of being weak for stepping down because their competence is waning is an attempt at pressuring leaders to remain in office even when they know they can't properly perform. This is the epitome of stupidity. Where is the weakness in knowing your limits and acting in the interests of the people you were elected to serve? We shouldn't pressure leaders into retaining power when they know they can no longer give it their all. Stepping down is a noble thing that is in the interests of the public. Stepping down when you can no longer give it your all is good. It ensures we don't have incompetent leaders. Anyone who shames Ardern for stepping down is a worthless idiot who wants to pressure leaders to remain in power even when they know their competence is waning. This will have terrible results. We should respect leaders who step down when they know they can't give it their all. This is true devotion, and is truly in the interests of those that they represent. Whether you like Jacinda Ardern or not, these reactions to her resignation should be regarded as what they are: completely and utterly stupid.